Welcome. This is The Office on Lagos Talks 91.3. My name is Michelle Ago. It's 33 minutes now past the hour of 4. Today on The Office, before we get into the details, remember that The Office is proudly brought to you by the Chartered Institute of Personal Management and Lagos Talks 91.3. My guest today is a professional HR generalist with over 2.5 decades of HR practice. He started his career with Shell Petroleum Development Company, advanced through the ranks, and after attaining 21 years of meritorious service in 2009, he left SPDC. His dual role as HR business partner and SPDC contractor holder for all service contracts to pursue the dream of becoming a seasoned HR professional. He had stints in HR consulting for about 4 years from 2009 to 2013 with Lips and Bounds Partners Limited before returning to the HR practice in May 2013 as Senior Manager, Employee Relations in Frigo Glass Industries Nigeria Limited, a multinational company and member of the Frigo Glass Group. In this role, he managed the employee industrial relations issues in all the subsidiaries of the Frigo Glass Group in Nigeria. He progressed from Frigo Glass Industries to join BUA Group, a conglomerate, as General Manager of Human Resources, BUA Cement PLC of Pela, Edo State. Now, in 2016, the role he currently occupies. Now, he's trained both locally and internationally. Educationally, he studied business administrations as his first degree and also got an executive MBA from the University of Lagos. He's an active member of CIPM and other professional bodies. My guest today, ladies and gentlemen, is Mr. Adedeji Omotayo. Hello, sir. Welcome to the office this beautiful evening.
Good evening. Thank you so much for welcoming me. Good evening, colleagues.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to have you join us today. Now, we do this every Thursday. We get to speak with experts and professionals, especially HR experts, to give us new insights and, teach us new things about the office and how we can build a sustainable career, some of the ethics we need to have, some of the skills we need to possess, and the right attitude to make it to the top. Everybody wants to grow, and it's a pleasure to have you join us today with your wealth of experience spanning over 20 years. We cannot wait to dig into today's conversation with us. Now, for you listening, you can be a part of the conversation by tweeting at Lagos Talks 913 or calling the phone lines 0809 191 3913. Now, our topic today is managing workplace flexibility. That's what we'll be talking about today. Please shed some light on the concept of workplace flexibility. Do we have to be flexible at work? Especially if we already have a designated role, how can we be flexible if so?
Thank you so much. Well, workplace flexibility is something that's really not new. It's also called flexible work arrangement.
Okay.
FWA. And it's when an employee gives when an employer gives freedom or independence or flexibility to its employees to choose the time, location, and manner in which they deliver results. Okay. It's actually a way of providing support for the employees who want to align organizational goals with individual/personal goals. The primary aim actually for workplace flexibility is to promote work-life balance.
All right.
This work-life balance is something that could also be used by organizations as part of the employee value proposition to attract potential employees into such an organization. It can also be used as a retention strategy to retain employees with critical skills, or even your higher potential employees that we usually call hypos. Lastly, it can be used for inclusiveness when it comes to diversity and inclusiveness, where you create inclusiveness in the workplace by identifying certain issues that could benefit certain categories of employees that are ordinarily not being included or carried along in the organization. However, not all roles can benefit from workplace flexibility. That's just a reality. For example, if we're talking about the manufacturing environment, where you would need to have physical presence of workers at shop floor, definitely such cannot be, flexibility cannot work in such an environment.
All right.
Flexibility, as I mentioned earlier, is not new. And in order for it to be effective in any organization, there must be certain factors that must be cleared and put in place first. And three key factors are as follows. The first one is the top stroke executive management buy-in of the strategy of workplace flexibility. The second one is as soon as that buy-in is received, HR must be able to provide relevant policies to support the new activity. And there must be measurement tools and controls that must be put in place to prevent abuse either from the organization or the employee. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now, what are some flexible work arrangements that can be put in place in an organization? Some practical work, flexible work arrangements, yeah.
Okay. The most popular one is actually remote working.
Okay.
It's usually called working from home. Then apart from remote working, we have flexible work hours, which we usually call flexi time. Flexible work hours is a kind of arrangement where in an organization that maybe starts work at 8 o'clock and finishes at 5 p.m., you could give some employees the opportunity, especially if we're talking of an environment like Lagos, where traffic is quite tough. You could allow some employees to probably come in at 10 o'clock and make sure that they do their normal 8 hours before leaving the organization. That's one. Then you have the compressed work week. Naturally, when it comes to hours of work, the hours usually is 40 weeks in 5 days. That's in the week.
40 hours.
Sorry, 40 hours yes, 40 hours in 5 days. That's for the whole week. You could get some employees to compress that work week by doing more hours during the week. And at the end of the day, they could finish their 40 hours before the 5th day. Maybe by the 4th day, they've already finished that. So the last day, they could use it to sort out some other individual goals as part of their own personal preferences. Then you have what we call the reduced hours of part-time work. Part-time work is quite clear. Reduced hours is also quite clear. Then you have what we call the telecommuting and teleworking. Telecommuting, this one is more pronounced in Europe, where you have a network train. You have very fast very fast trains linking up regions and countries within Europe. What you see employees working from other countries or regions coming into some other countries to work. In using telecommuting, you could give such people the opportunity first to have some days where they would work while commuting on their way back to work, while they are also physically present about 2 or 3 days in a week. Then you have what we call the phased-in retirement. The phased-in retirement is used for those who are planned to retire. What happens is you try to reduce the workload of such a person to enable the person, first and foremost, to either coach or hand over to a successor, and at the same time have time to prepare for his post-retirement activities. Then you have voluntary reduction of work hours. This one, if it's done, will most likely reduce the pay per day. For example, if we're saying employees are expected to work for 8 hours in a day, if such employees decide to choose, say, 6 or 5 hours, definitely such person's pay comes will be less than the amount that's usually given when it's 8 hours. Then we have job sharing. Job sharing is when we have an activity that will take like 8 hours and you share it amongst employees. Maybe one will do 5, another will do 3. Then the other one that's also common in Nigeria is what we call the hybrid working. Hybrid working is a combination of remote working and also being physically present at work. You may be on remote working for 3 days in the week, while you'll be physically present for 2 days in the week. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. Very interesting to hear you break it down, about the flexible work arrangement. And I think lots of employees are already adapting this flexible work arrangement for the employers, rather, for the employees. We'll go on a quick break, but when we return, we'll look at specifically at hybrid work arrangements and how HR effectively manages this to ensure that it's a win for both the employees and the organization. But that's after the break. Stay with us.
A day to remember in the history of our dear country, Nigeria. 9 wise men from the north who were governors came together on June 8th, 2022 to stand for equity and fairness in the interest of our nation, Nigeria. They buried personal interest for the unity of our country. They supported the call that power must shift to the south in 2023. They chose a Nigeria agenda. We salute our brothers and sisters in the northern part of this country who, in spite of their vote advantage, continue to propagate the unity of Nigeria by promoting rotational presidency between the north and southern parts of the country. Let voters in the north follow the move by these leaders. Vote for power shift to the south. It's the turn of the south to produce the president in 2023. Let's vote Bola Tinubu for president for a renewed hope of better Nigeria. Vote Kashim Shettima as vice president. Vote APC. Long live the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
It's time to choose your candidate. Who will you give your mandate to govern Lagos State for the next 4 years? Your leading talk station, Lagos Talks 91.3 FM, in partnership with the Electoral College, Civic Hive, Africa Leadership Group, and CJID, presents the Lagos Gubernatorial Debate 2023. It's time for the candidates to answer your most pertinent questions. 6 leading candidates in Lagos: Funsho Dorothy, African Democratic Congress; Baribo Rhodes Vival, Labour Party; Chief Kunle Uthman, Social Democratic Party; Akin Braithwaite, National Rescue Movement; Abdulaziz Olajide Adediran, People's Democratic Party; and Babajide Olushola Sanwo-Olu of the All Progressive Congress. They will be on stage for one purpose: win your vote. On the 15th of February, Lagos Talks 91.3 FM and News Central TV will broadcast live the Lagos Gubernatorial Debate from 5 p.m. To attend the debate in person, send an email to events@lagostalks.com. It's time to decide on an excellent choice for the city of Lagos. Who will coordinate the affairs of the state, take the heat, and govern the people right? Remember, the Lagos Gubernatorial Debate is a hybrid event which will take place in person and on air on Lagos Talks 91.3 FM and online on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Lagos Talks 913. The Lagos Gubernatorial Debate, 15 February 2023 from 5 p.m. Don't miss it.
Join hand make we vote Bergen. Join Julia one shake we shout. As the representatives of the Jones constituency in the Lagos State, we have a assembly. Imagine Sabi, people, he got that experience.
Vote GOI. Vote APC. Together, we are better.
A day to remember in the history of our dear country, Nigeria. 9 wise men from the north who were governors came together on June 8th, 2022 to stand for equity and fairness in the interest of our nation, Nigeria. They buried personal interest for the unity of our country. They supported the call that power must shift to the south in 2023. They chose a Nigeria agenda. We salute our brothers and sisters in the northern part of this country who, in spite of their vote advantage, continue to propagate the unity of Nigeria by promoting rotational presidency between the north and southern part of the country. Let voters in the north follow the move by these leaders. Vote for power shift to the south. It's the turn of the south to produce the president in 2023. Let's vote Bola Tinubu for president for a renewed hope of better Nigeria. Vote Kashim Shettima as vice president. Vote APC. Long live the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Bringing the world to you. Lagos Talks.
This is Lagos Talks 91.3.
All right, welcome back. It's still the office on Lagos Talks 91.3. Yes, we still have our guests, and he's right here with us. He is Mr. Adedeji Omotayo, FCIPM, the General Manager, Human Resources, BUA Cement, PLC. Welcome back, sir.
Thank you.
Yes. Now, before the break, you did mention, and you talked about different types of flexible workplace policies or practices like hybrid, remote working. A number of people believe that flexibility increases productivity. What are your thoughts on this? Do you think flexibility increases productivity?
Definitely it does. The interesting thing about flexibility is that the initial purpose of the key purpose of having flexible work arrangements is to enhance work-life balance. And when employees are highly engaged in the organization, you tend to see them go the extra mile in making sure that they deliver on their targets. And if that happens, what you see mostly regarding such organization is that such organizations tend to attract, retain, motivate high-performing employees better than organizations that don't have flexible work arrangements. So for me, flexibility in the workplace is in organization is very key. It also allows a situation where it helps to reduce absenteeism and presenteeism. Absenteeism is something that we all know, but presenteeism is more like it's an industrial relations balance that reflects a situation where an employee comes to work, sits in the office, but does not do any job-related activity. Rather, the person engages in personal activities. However, the person has clocked into the organization and is being seen as being available at work for that for that day. So presenteeism is more like you just come in and you're not adding value to the organization for that day that you're practicing such presenteeism. It also helps to boost productivity, because if employees are well engaged as a result of the flexible work arrangements that they have, they will tend to put in their best. And this, by extension, lowers overhead costs. Let us not also forget the fact that when you have organizations that have work flexibility arrangements, it improves the employer's brand, because potential employees would want to work in such organization. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, on a scale of 1 to 5, how flexible do you think Nigerian workplace policies are today?
That's a very, very interesting question. That's a very interesting question. If you ask me, based on my own personal view, I would say we're within 2 to 2.5. And I'll explain why.
Okay, why?
Before the COVID-19 era, only multinationals and global organizations were actually involved in flexible work arrangements. However, COVID-19 forced other local organizations to start imbibing flexible work arrangements without putting the appropriate policies, controls, and measurement strategies in place, thereby creating opportunities for abuse. What it means basically is they just jumped into the strategy without really putting structures in place for them to be able to measure it and prevent abuse. And you would see that initially when remote working started, most employees felt they were happy that they're working from home. But I can tell you today, for some organizations, when you ask them if they're really benefiting from the remote working that they're doing, they will tell you they are not benefiting. And this is because there are no processes and controls put in place. I've seen a situation where one of my mentees was discussing with me and was complaining. And the complaint was all about the fact that she's doing remote working, but they call her up around 10:30 p.m., 11 p.m. for scheduled meetings. And they're still expecting her to start work at 8 o'clock. You know? So that's why I had to go to 2 to 2.5. If we have situations where organizations will put structures around it, then I think we will be able to do better in Nigeria. And I would also say that we're on course. Let's not rule that out. We're on course because a lot of organizations are experiencing that they've latched onto this, and some of them have set up structures to monitor, while some are just still doing it even without the policies. Thank you.
All right. Now, since we're just trying to wrap up now before we go, do you have any last words to share as far as the topic is concerned, managing workplace flexibility? Do you think people are also taking advantage of the workplace flexibility or the flexibility that some work environment provides? Do you think, the employees are managing it well? Are they being as productive as they should be? What are your thoughts on that, on the employee's point of view?
Yeah, well, for me, it's both ways. I was mentioning earlier that it would be nice to have structures around it. When you come up with the flexible work arrangements, and you don't have structures around it, you don't have strategies that will enable you to monitor appropriately. You don't have situations where you would evaluate the performance of such employees. What you then see is you see situations where the organization may try and abuse the strategy by really allowing the employees to work beyond the normal hours without being compensated, while even the employees can even use part of that time to even do their personal things. That's why it's both ways. But if organizations can actually put structures around that, I believe that we would have organizations really managing flexible working arrangements effectively.
All right. Do you have any last words to share before we go?
It's more of an appeal. I know that in Nigeria, we started this late, but I'm appealing to all organizations that are currently doing flexible working arrangements and don't have policies in place and controls in place to please try and put them in place so that the employees can continue to be highly engaged in the organization. If there are abuses at both ends, what you see is conflict coming up, and at the end of the day, could lead to organizations and employees leaving such organizations. We're doing very well. We're on course, and when structures are in place, it makes us better organizations in Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate you for your time today on The Office, Mr. Adedeji. We hope to have you back later on The Office sometime soon to share more, give us more insights, and just educate us even more. Have a beautiful evening.
And you too.
All right. Thank you. Coming up next is Critical Thinking. Don't go anywhere. It's Lagos Talks 91.3.